Good evening. Happy Thirsty Thursday. I'm Emily, the Jet Setting Fashionista. I haven't seen you guys in a while. I'm super excited for my first Instagram Live of 2021 with Michael Browne of Cirque Wines and CHEV Wines. I'm sure any of you wine lovers know Michael Browne. He also founded Costa Browne, which was his first project. But I'm so excited. We will be tasting Cirque and CHEV wines tonight. And give me one moment. I'm just gonna find Michael and invite him to join me. This is always the fun part. Okay, well, in the meantime, hold on. I'm sure he'll be tuning in. I have to admit it, I couldn't wait to start some of these wines. Oh, hello, Erica. Erica works at Cirque and CHEV with Michael, and I'm pretty sure she's the enologist. It's a very fancy word. She's tuning in. Okay, Michael, whenever you are ready to join, just invite yourself to join and I will include you. But in the meantime, I cheated and I started a little bit early with the Chardonnay. I needed a little wine to drink as I was getting ready, and holy cow. I'm not gonna give anything away, but it's incredible. It's like super light and fresh and just very unexpected, sort of, not that like big overpowering Russian River Chardonnay. But anyway, I will save the rest for Michael. I don't wanna share too many tasting notes. Okay, let me pop back. Oh my God, this is so fun. Hey, Tony, I love all the familiar faces. Now I just need Michael. Okay, where are you? Michael, Cirque Estate. Maybe he's under Michael Browne tonight. He's got 3 profiles, so, we've got a few options. Okay, Michael, if you are watching and you see this before me, how about you just ask to join? Oh, he's under Cirque. That's what I thought. Cirque. Interesting. Where are you, Michael? Okay, hopefully this will work. If not, we might have to log off and get back in. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna have one more sip because it's just that delicious. And when you have technical difficulties, you resort to wine. It's actually the solution for everything. But Cirque. Let me try this one more time. Nope, not yet. Okay, well, I know Michael is joining. We were just texting. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm really happy to see you guys all. Can you believe it's been 4 or 5 weeks since my last IG Live. It was with Bia Cart Salmon Sushi and Chef Ken of Hana Sushi and Pabu San Francisco. So that was a good one. Who saw it? This is when it gets funny, when I'm just talking to myself and entertaining you guys as I'm waiting for the winemaker to join. So I'll tell you some more funny stories. What else? What do you guys want to know? Oh, Michael's here. Yes. Okay, let me invite Cirque Estate to join. Yay. Okay, Hello, Michael.
Oh, hello.
Oh, the party has arrived. Thank God. I was trying to entertain everybody on my own. Not the best.
Well, I'm stuck here in our office trailer. It's very cramped.
Oh, well, I see the wines behind you. We've got you, the wines, and the book. Well, I was going to say, what more could we need? Sarah, but I don't know if Sarah's joining us today.
She's not. She might pop in. She's doing construction stuff.
Okay. Well,
not
I love
actually.
it.
She's not with a hammer, but making sure that the new house at the winery is getting all done.
Well, we know what do they say? You're like the partners. The wives really get everything done. So it's great you're here, but come on, let's be honest. Sarah's the woman, right?
Oh yes, she's only a woman to me. To reference the great Billy Joel, right?
Oh, I love it.
I love that song.
I know. Oh,
She's only a woman.
I queued that up in the background. That would have been so good. Next time.
I doubt she's going to step in because she likes to do her hair and stuff. And
trust me, I know. I was frantically getting ready today. Yeah, those days where everything takes twice as long as you expect, and then you're like, oh my God, it's 4:40. I'm going live in 20 minutes. That was one of those days for me.
Like the entire last year?
Well, yeah, although last year I feel like during shelter in place we had a lot of time on my hand. Like I was sort of like, wow, is this what people do when they don't go out like every weekend or travel? Like that's sort of how 2020 felt to me.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh my God, one of my Norwegian followers just joined, Inez Wagner. He has the best wine taste in Norway. I'm sure he drinks your wine literally every single time he posts on Instagram. I'm like, how did you get Cirque in Oslo? So we have viewers in Norway watching, and it's like 2 in the morning.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, where should we start? I admitted I cheated and I had a little splash of Chardonnay as I was getting ready to set the tone.
good for you.
It's
Yeah,
so beautiful.
I like that wine, and we can talk about that whenever you want.
Well, you
And
tell
we'll
me.
talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, why don't we start with the wine so we can relax and sip, and then we'll weave in the book because boy, do I have a lot of good questions for you. That book was such a great read or listen, shall I say? I listened to the Audible.
It's different, that's for sure. Yeah.
I loved it. I was taking notes like, copiously, like as if I'm ever going to start a winery. I just thought it was fascinating.
Well, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So
So the
Chardonnay, shall we toast to the Chardonnay? The CHEV. So yeah, so tell us about CHEV because I this is the first time I've ever had your CHEV Chardonnay. I had your CHEV Pinot at World of Pinot Noir, which was
hmm
awesome. I remember you were standing in the aisle pouring it, and I got a good shot of you. But the CHEV Chardonnay was sort of a surprise to me. Let me show everybody.
Yeah, so I started a new brand because I can't sit idle, and I like the creative aspect of building a different brand. And Cirque, I started over 10 years ago because I knew eventually I would get out of Costa Brown. Not get out of, but a transition period. And it takes a while to build a wine brand. And so we started Cirque, and it's been a great project, and I love the wines and the people around it and all that kind of stuff. And that's Russian River, and that's going just to one wine now, starting with the 17 vintage.
Okay.
So Cirque is just one SKU, one wine. Then I go, well, I kind of want to do some other stuff. So I got to build another brand. And I was down in Atlanta for the Atlanta High Museum wine auction. This is like 7 years ago. And I went to Four Seasons, eating a little snack before this event that night.
You're speaking my language. Four Seasons wine event. Sign me up.
Yeah. And so I looked at the back bar, and there was all these really cool spirits. And again, I love branding. So I saw this bottle. It was called Ford Gin, American-made gin. I go, that's a cool package. And I go, that'd be a cool wine brand. Ford, old Americana, like when people were making things out of raw metal and steel. Gas station. Yeah, you got it.
So this was sort of where this was inspired. I'll just do the visual as you tell the story.
Yeah, and so there's some other fun stuff on the front that we can talk about if we have time. But anyway, I said, well, Ford's not going to work because Francis Ford Coppola, that's going to fall flat on his face. And I said, well, Chevrolet's a cool brand. And I started thinking about it, and I go, Cirque is more like turn of the century, old San Francisco high-end shop where you go to get the cool stuff.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to search it out a little bit.
Like a Barney's before it went away.
Yeah, or some corner shop, maybe like an old bookstore or something of that
Oh,
nature, right?
okay.
And Chev is more based on like 1940s LA car shops
Okay.
where they made them. They're custom. And I like cars, and so that's kind of where it came from as far as inspiration. But the brand itself is based more on regions than on just one region. Like I
Okay.
said, Cirque is one region, Russian River Valley, Garden of Eden, and I love living here.
Yep.
But with Chev, we've got an Oregon Pinot coming out. We're going to get back into Santa Lucia Highlands. We were supposed to do it last year, but the fires kind of blew that out.
Yeah.
We got a little Santa Rita Hills fruit, and eventually I
Oh,
want to make a Washington State Bordeaux blend
oh, that would be fun.
because that's my
This is
home.
all under Chef because Cirque is
Yeah,
just that one Russian River skew. Okay.
exactly. And what we're in, no vineyard does either.
Uh-oh, that's okay. It always sort of happens. It's inevitable.
Yeah,
You're
and
back. Um,
because that's my home state, Washington State,
yep.
and Bordeaux blends and those varietals are much different than making Pinot Noir, and I like that because it's a challenge, right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of the direction we're going. And so the Chardonnay, the Pinot Noir, I want to make a little more of a broad style than Cirque. I make
Okay.
intense wines, but I don't like goopy, sloppy wines. You know, I like
Hmm.
fine lines in wines because
Elegance.
elegant intensity, right? You can,
I'm trying to look at my notes. I took so many notes as I was listening to the book, which is a little worrisome because I'm usually driving when I'm listening to Audible, but I'm really good at multitasking. And yeah, elegant intensity. That was like literally, I'm just gonna be like, oh hey Michael, elegant intensity. That I feel like is gonna be your new middle name.
yeah, I've been talking about that for years because, again, I like intensity, but I like elegance as well, in not only wine but other parts of life. And that's what we're going for. And so no vineyard designates. What we're doing is trying to focus on our regions
Hmm.
and then really letting Mother Nature shine however she's going to shine in that given season, right? And I really like that aspect. I'm not trying to make the same wine every year as
Hmm.
far as it's got to match this and match that. There's a certain element of style that comes with that. But at the same
So
point, it's well, Mother Nature did this. It's a leaner year or it's a
yeah.
stronger year or whatever it may be. And that's
So
pretty cool.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question. If someone was to ask you, I mean, obviously Cirque is going to be one lean, well, narrow skew. It's a Russian River Pinot. And then CHEV is going to be a little bit, wider assortment. Stylistically, how would you compare the Cirque Pinot Noir to the CHEV Pinot Noir?
That's a good question, and I get that quite often. Both I want to be intense. But Cirque,
And elegant.
what we're trying to do is have very fine lines around the wine, very fine lines. And Chev, I want to be a little more broad, a little more voluptuous, but again, not into that goopy, sloppy area, and then there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. It's just not kind of what I want to do.
Yeah.
But so with our Pinot, we're West Coast Pinot, and we're embracing that.
Hmm.
But the favorite wine I've ever had, a buddy of mine gave me one, was DRC Montrachet. I forget the vintage.
You talk about that in the book,
I,
Montrachet.
I do, yeah.
Hmm.
And I met Aubert de Villaine one time, and what a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're working on our efforts, and the Chardonnay you have in front of you is from a vineyard called Bootlegger's Hill.
I've been there. I'm obsessed with it.
It's a cool vineyard, yeah. That's a good story behind that.
Those guys I love them.
Yeah, Chenos, yeah,
Yep.
totally.
They're
Um,
wonderful.
they are, yeah.
Well, we're probably going to do an Instagram live. Well, actually, I know we are in March, so we'll have to bring the conversation back to you and your beautiful wines coming from that vineyard. I love how it's just also interchangeable. People are growers and producers, and everyone is just super close and tight and sort of this nice winemaking family, even if they're different brands.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's really cool. But with our Chardonnay, what we're trying to do is, hold on to the Russian River aspect because we're in the Russian River.
Hmm.
But I also want that kind of minerality and good acidity, not bracing, rip your teeth out
Yeah.
acidity, more of just a good broad mouthfeel, not a lot of oak or that kind of thing. And so we
So is this
implemented,
neutral oak? Because I'm tasting a little oak on the finish, but I mean
well,
it's very like fresh and bright.
we use different vessels. So we use amphoras, which are made in
Yep.
Petaluma here. We use eggs out of France. We use neutral barrels and stainless steel barrels. And then our new
Ah,
barrels, they're very mild, but they have really good texture. And they
okay.
kind of fold down on your palate. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Well, let me just tell someone because it looks like I'm going to be doing the tasting notes for everybody at home. I have to say, I mean, when you think of a Russian River Chardonnay, you do think of like big and round and oaky. And I don't want to use the word buttery because I'm sure you would never make a buttery Chardonnay. But this is just like so light in your mouth, and you could drink glasses of it even without. I mean, I can always drink Chardonnay, but like I don't even think you need food for this. It's just it's stunning.
Well, good.
And I mean, this is what year are we drinking?
18
Yeah, so this would be interesting in a couple of years. Was this the first Chardonnay, the 18 vintage?
for Chev, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this would be fun in a couple. We should have a rain check in 2 or 3 years. Taste the
totally.
Chardonnay because it's going to
Yes,
be. I mean, it's beautiful now, but I think this would be fun in a couple of years to see like how it ages.
absolutely. And the same with our Pinots.
Well, of
3 to 5
course,
years
yeah.
after release, they start to get into a groove.
Hmm. Well, yeah, you and I were talking. What was the Pinot I had a couple weeks ago? The 14, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had the 14, which is awesome because we're having the 13 and the 15 tonight. So,
yeah. The 13's cool. I love that wine. And the
yeah.
15 Bootleggers, it's a different animal, but she's a beautiful one too. So
So
that's
is
why I
that,
said,
I know you can't have a favorite. This is, I mean, all parents are like, I don't have a favorite child. Is the 13 Treehouse maybe one of like your proudest vintages? Because it sounds like you got excited about the 13.
it is, yeah, it is. But they are all of our children,
Yeah,
and
we
it is
love them
true.
all.
It is true. But yeah, the 13 for whatever reason just really worked out. And that
Yeah,
15 bootleggers you have, that's another one,
yeah.
but they all have their own personalities and they all have their own kind of style and they're
Well, and
going to do what they're going to do.
it's hard to believe. So I'm trying to think. We were in January 2021. So January of 2019, you and I tasted your entire lineup together.
Hmm.
That is so weird. That was 2 years ago.
I can't believe it. Seems like it was 6 months ago.
And
Yeah.
I remember I showed up and you had the whole table, and I was like, this cannot be for me. Like, come on, this is Cirque. I'm lucky if I get a sip. And it was so fun. And we did what, 11 through maybe 17 at that point, or 16?
I believe through 16.
Yeah.
If it
So
was
guys,
2 years ago, yeah.
yeah. So if you want to see all about those, that is on the blog. And I also have an interview about Michael on the blog. Not to toot your own horn, but I think that's one of my most read interviews. I tracked the open
Wow.
rates, and holy cow, that one got a lot of opens.
Oh, cool. That makes me feel good. Yeah. Hopefully I
Yeah,
didn't
I
sound
mean,
like an idiot or something, but
no,
yeah.
I think people want to hear your story. And so speaking of the story, let me pull out the book. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I love the cover.
Good.
You might even be in the same top. Oh, it's like navy with a zipper. So tell us about the book. Like, what inspired you to write this book, and how did you get that amazing narrator? Like, just share.
I will, but the cover is first of all, the photographer is Eric Wolfinger, who
Oh,
won.
I know of him.
He's awesome. Just won the James Beard Award, and he does a lot of our photography. And I said,
Mhm.
okay, I've got this old wine press from Charlie Chenoweth from 100 years ago. I
Yeah.
want to sit in it, and I want grapes dumped on me,
Oh, I
and
love it.
it's like a bathtub.
Okay, speaking of
So,
love, thank you for the autograph.
oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
This will go on my
So,
like wine bookshelf.
yeah, right on. So you asked why I did it. And the story goes like this. We all have stories. And I look back at my ancestors and I go, I wish I could read their book because it's very interesting. My mother's side and my father's side.
Hmm.
And you hear it, it's like cave wall paintings. That's kind of the translation.
Cave. Oh, that's a great analogy. Like,
Yeah, it's like, well, here's a story,
hmm,
about a man named Brady and three boys of his own, right?
yeah,
And I had to do a Brady Bunch reference. But anyway, I used to go to lunch with James Lowry from the Wine Spectator every year, once or twice, and we always had a good time. And I'd bring the wines, drop them off. We'd go to lunch and we'd talk about everything except for wine.
yep.
It was really cool,
Well, I'm saying yes because if I talk to you, it's always about wine. But it's so cool that you guys are just like don't even need to talk about the wine. You're just hanging out, and then he'll taste the wine later.
Later. Like, how was your fishing trip? How are the kids? What's going on?
Yeah.
That's sort of a conversation. And one day, it's about 6, 7 years ago, he said, Michael, you got to write your story down. And I said, Jim, I don't know how to write a book. He goes, no, it's easy. You just dictate it and then you type it out. And I go, well, you're a writer. It sounds easy. And
Yeah.
then I met this guy named Tucker Max, who has a company called Scribe Media, when I was doing
Oh.
a talk at this event in Napa. And I was the last one on. They wanted to wrap it up with a wine guy. And this guy, Tucker, did a speech or a talk in the middle of it about his new book company.
Okay.
And at that time, it was called Book in a Box. And I'm like, that is just an odd thing. And then I was all mic'd up in the back, getting ready to do my little thing. And then the Costa Brown thing comes up in my photo. He goes, oh, I love that wine. Because he grew up in the restaurant business down in Texas with his father, and they like it. And he loves really good wine. And he goes, oh, man, he looks over at me and goes, that's you. I go, yeah, whatever that means. And he goes, you got to write your book. And I go, I don't know how to do it. He goes, that's what I'm here for. And that was 4.5 years ago when we started this project.
Okay.
And he goes, when you're in New York, talk to my outliner, then come back. And I've got all these writers, but I'm going to do this personally with you. And we sat down through Skype. He would fly up here. We would talk in person.
I think he's on listening because we just got a hey boss in the comments.
Oh, you did? Who knows who the hey boss is, right?
The Cook's Journal.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we sat down and we went through it. And then once the manuscript was done, and this is a wild process. I've never done this before.
I've never written a book either.
And then I scrubbed every word, because I'm kind of anal like that, you know?
Well, I could hear you talking like, oh, that's cool. Oh, if the person was cool at the restaurant, I'd offer them the KB under the table. Like literally, I could just hear your like dialect saying it. That was like that was the coolest part about listening to the book. I could like hear your voice, and I'm like, that's so Michael.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
No, that's how I talk. Anyway, finally Tucker goes, Michael, give it up, man. It's good. Trust me on this one. You don't need to keep rewriting this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, because it was weighing on my shoulders, this project. And finally he goes, just give it up. And I did.
Yeah.
And then his team got around it. And they said, you mentioned this, the audiobook part.
Mm-hmm.
They said, Michael, you got to get a narrator for your audiobook. And I thought I was going to read it. And I go, how am I going to do that? You know, that's a lot of work. And they said, we have 7 narrators in Los Angeles. You choose which one you like best, and they'll narrate it.
Wow.
And I go, okay. And I go home that night, and I'm laying in bed about midnight. And I go, well, there's 2 people I'd like to do this, Morgan Freeman or William Shatner.
Oh, great options.
How do I could get to Morgan Freeman, but it would have been hard. It would have been hard.
Well, I'm sure he's a wine lover and loves your wine. I feel like your wine is the way to anyone's heart.
Yeah, I got a couple of very loose connections, but it would have been hard. But one of my good buddies that runs CRN Radio down in LA, and that's who just called me for some reason, you know.
Yeah.
But he's buddies with William Shatner, and I said, and I love Captain Kirk, man. I grew up watching Captain Kirk and Spock and Scotty and all those guys. And I said, do you think he'd want to do it? He goes, I don't know. Send me the manuscript and I'll call him. And a week later, I'm on the phone with Captain Kirk. He goes, Michael, I like the manuscript. I'll be in studio tomorrow, but your book has a lower tone, so I'm going to lower my tone. And I go, Mr. Shatner, whatever you want to do. Yeah. And I really liked how he did it. It was really cool. And he added in a couple different things, you know. Just
like
weaved, just his a little ad lib, you know.
Oh.
Just here and there. You'd have to really look at it and listen to it and see. But since I know the book so well,
I know. Anyway, we'll talk offline. I want to know the ad libs. I'll re-listen to those sections because.
Well, I'd have to search it, but anyway, it was really nice of him to do that. And I was talking with his assistant, and I was telling her that my dad and I used to watch Star Trek, and she goes, "He just sent up a signed photograph for your dad."
Oh.
And it was when he was back in like the 70s in his yellow uniform. And I had it framed for my father, and I gave it to my dad because he's a science fiction nut. Oh, and by the way, there's my dad.
Oh, that's sweet.
He's a statue on my desk.
Perfect. He's in the video studio. That's awesome.
He is, yeah, he is. But anyway, that's how that came about.
Okay. Well, I mean, and I have to say, like, what was it, 7 chapters, 7 or 8? It's the perfect length. You know when you read a book and you're like, is it done yet? Like, cut to the chase. I was like, oh, it's already done. Shoot. Like, but I got all the nuggets I needed. Like, for some reason, I feel like, okay, you had this Jetta, and then, you know, the guys that you originally, your partners couldn't pay you, so they paid you in a truck. And I'm like, cool, he got a truck. Like, he's a winemaker. He's arrived. He has a truck now. But like, I feel like each segment made a lot of sense. And I loved how you sort of talked about, you know, you like took the leap of faith and left Seattle to move to Sonoma, and then you invited Sarah to come with you, which was so romantic because I've met you and Sarah a lot at events, and I feel like it's pretty cool that you guys like started this way back when together and grew up in the winemaking world together, and this is really a family business.
It sure is, yeah. Browne Family Wines, and she just left, by the way. So bye. But
Bye. Well, she's here in spirit because we're talking about her.
yeah.
Um, well, good. Well, should we move on to the Pinots? I mean, I know we have a lot of active listeners at home. I'm curious if anybody else is drinking with us. If so, guys, please comment. Let us know what you opened. Don't worry, even if you're not drinking a Cirque or a CHEV, because let's be honest, not everybody can get their hands on these at the moment. But if you're lucky enough to, comment what you're drinking. Oh, we actually did have a question, so let me go back to it, Michael, about a Cirque, and it was a really great question, so I want to make sure we cover it. Michael, the 16 Cirque Treehouse and Bootleggers were the last of their kind, and KB had them for the first time in 16. How will they be similar or different? Have all four but resting for a while.
Yeah, interesting question, because that was during the transition when I bought Cirque back from Costa Browne,
Okay.
because that got folded into Costa Browne in early 15. Took me 3 years to get that. But anyway, I went in there and the team there was really cool with me, and I went through with Nico, who was winemaker at the time.
Yeah. Wait,
He's
sorry,
now,
1 second. People might, let's just assume people might not understand when you say the team there, like the team that you sold your brand to, right?
yeah, the team on the ground,
Okay.
because there was the management, the private equity, but I'm talking about the winemaking team
Okay.
and the management team.
Okay.
And they're all still good friends. But I said, hey, I'm looking for this style. And so I worked with Nico. He's now at Heights Cellar, really
Oh,
good
Nico's at
winemaker.
Heights? I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, last I heard he was.
Oh, good. And I heard
But
he had a kid. He has a little baby.
yeah, it's good stuff.
Good.
But I said, hey, I've got these barrels, and it was only 40 barrels, but I need some other aspects to get in here to add a little more cello tone, if you know what I'm saying. That
No,
was
but I'm
what,
sure you'll explain it. I don't know what cello tone is in wine.
well, if we have time, we can talk about colors and sounds
Okay.
within wine. But anyway, so I was able to choose the barrels that I wanted, and then we took a lot of time to blend a little bit of Chev, like 70 cases, and then the 17 Cirque, right?
Okay.
After the 16s. And then 18 was the first vintage that we made wine here at our new winery,
Yep.
which is very exciting. And you were just here a couple, 3 days
Well,
ago
and
or
I don't
so.
know if Jeremiah told you, but I was invited back for bottling day. So I'm going to come and do one of your bottling days and get in the way and film and help out.
That sounds good to me. We can always
I
use
couldn't
help.
tell. I was like, is that a look of excitement or get this blogger out of the way? Although, judging from your book, you've been embracing bloggers since '03, which I wish I knew you in '03. I didn't even
Yeah,
have my blog. So apparently you welcome blogger coverage, which is awesome being a blogger.
absolutely. And we're straying a bit off topic or conversation, but this is good. I like this. And I noticed that the people on some of these blogs, they were really into it, and they still are.
Yeah.
And so we'd invite them up, and I go, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I hope you like it. But if not, we'll have a good conversation, maybe.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot of those people as my friends to this day. And it was really a cool thing. And I think wine brings people together, brings people closer, slows people down,
Yeah. It
and it
definitely slows
leads,
me down.
yeah, and you can add music to that or food or whatever, and a nice fireplace, and you can sit back and have
Yeah.
whatever the conversation may be, no agenda, right? I
So
love
I
I
do.
love that.
A couple questions. I want to keep fielding the questions, and I want to make sure we get through all the wines. So, do you mind if I move on to the CHEV Pinot, or should we do the Cirque Pinot and then finish with the CHEV Pinot?
Why don't you hit the Chev first?
Okay.
Because it's a very young wine.
Okay.
Then you can see the evolution from the 17, then onto the 15, then onto the 13 to see how
Yes.
our wines kind of evolve.
So everybody, this is the CHEV 2018. I love how apparently my brother-in-law told me last time everything in Instagram Live appears backwards. So I'm sorry those labels backwards to you. And the cool branding Michael was talking about, inspired by Chevrolet. And Michael, CHEV, if people can sign up for the CHEV allocation list, correct, on your website? Let's talk about that too.
Yeah, so it's chevwines.com. And the whole restaurant scene has pretty much been shut down. So we got a little in the wings if somebody wants it. Cirque is gone until July.
Yeah.
But Chev, yeah, the Chardonnay's gone, but that we have a bit of Pinot. and they'll just go to chevwines.com.
Yep.
And if your guests here put in their message that they were on this broadcast, right?
Yep.
The people in the office, I have a very small team, but they will know what to do.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So guys, if you want to buy some CHEV, and definitely order the book too. I'm assuming they can get the book from you. Or, go to Audible or Amazon. Well, actually, don't go to Amazon. Shop small. Go to your local bookstore.
But right now, it's all kind of virtual, so Amazon's the best way to get it.
Okay.
But there's many other platforms out there that have it, but
Okay.
it's not really showing up in bookstores as of yet.
Okay. Well,
I'm sure
it's
it's there
hard.
somewhere.
It's going to be hard to find, just like your wines. You can only, if you're lucky to find it.
There's plenty of them.
Well, I would tell someone that they can borrow my book, but with the signed autograph, I'm not sharing my book. I'm sorry, but if someone doesn't return it, I will be really mad. So guys, go to Audible or go to Amazon and buy the book. And I think it's honestly, I should probably stock up, because I think any Pinot Noir lover, which most people in my life like Pinot Noir, or else I've removed them as friends, this would be a great gift.
And the Audible book is fun, super fun,
So CHEV. Okay, so CHEV, I love it. So for those of you tasting at home, just to give you some tasting notes, I have to say, I know you don't want to compare the two, but I feel like CHEV, the 18, it's very drinkable now. I would never taste this and be like, oh, give it time. I think it's drinkable and delicious now, Michael. It'll get more interesting with time, but it's luscious, it's fruit forward, it's jammy. It sort of is what I, think of when I think of a bigger, what was your elegant, intense Russian River Pinot?
It's slightly more voluptuous.
Yes.
Right. But I will say, I appreciate your comments on the wine, how you're tasting it today. But in 3 years or 5 or whatever, it's going to really relax. It's going to just kind of
chill.
Do this. That's been my experience with our style of wines.
Yeah,
so
of course.
We keep them pretty tight, as far as we don't rack them. We don't get a lot of air to them during the barrel aging process, and so they go into the bottle pretty tight.
So that was one of my questions for you, and we need to come back to the book, because Kenny, our friend Kenny, Kenny had a good question. Read some excerpt from the book, and I have a few favorite moments. But in the book, I was listening, and you were like, "We don't rack, we don't rack." Can you explain what that means, and what is the difference in winemaking style if you rack versus if you don't rack?
It depends on the varietal, and that's a good winemaking question. So, from my point of view, wines like Cabernets, they really need to be racked and get some air, because that loosens their tannin structure up. Pinot Noir, in my opinion, this is just my point of view, you rack and then you got to add more sulfur to take care of that oxygen use. And Pinot Noir's molecular structure is different than most red varietals. So it tends to absorb sulfur more. It's kind of like when you touch an anemone and it shrinks, then it comes back out, because we do add sulfur to our wines. We're very gentle. If you hit that anemone, it'll come back out, but it might have a wound on it. And so that's why I don't rack wines. And I didn't come across this by any philosophical means. I just didn't have time one year to rack the wines.
And explain to us what the term racking wine means for people that aren't winemakers.
Sure. Racking wines means you take the wine out of the barrel, off the lees, and the lees are the solids. You put it in some sort of vessel, you clean the barrel, and you put it back. You have more of a clean wine. You know what I mean? Not necessarily clean in the sense of aromatics or flavors. It could have that effect, but it's more of just a clarity method. It's
almost like taking off a dirty Band-Aid and putting a fresh one on. You're taking it out of the barrel, cleaning the barrel, putting it back in. So you're just giving it a fresh start, sort of.
But what we do is we settle our wines out for a couple days at harvest, so most of those solids are already gone. Because in my opinion, you have too many solids, and my experience has been it kind of tastes tomatoey, right?
Okay. Yeah, and like stemmy and savory, which I don't care for a savory Pinot. I'm more of a full body fruit forward Pinot.
Yeah, I don't mind a savory wine, but I like the clean aromatics, the fruit aromatics and flavors of Pinot Noir, but more so I like the texture, and that's where colors and sound come in. right?
Oh yeah,
For me.
maybe we should talk about that. This feels like a great lead-in.
Yeah, so I talk to people sometimes, and this is just how I see it. A blind person can see, and a deaf person can hear. They look at it in different ways. And I'll have people come in, and I'll say, okay, close your eyes, put the wine in your palate, and what color do you see? And people look at me cross-eyed, like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
And then they go, I'm seeing purple or blue
Yeah.
or crimson. And I go, okay, let's turn it around a little bit. What kind of a sound are you hearing with that? Keep your eyes open, but let's be quiet. And it's like,
That's
I'm
hard.
getting some high tones, maybe a piccolo or a violin or a cello or a oboe or something like that, or a Angus Young guitar just going through, right? And that's how I look at it. And I like that aspect because I think wine, not only does it bring us together and it slows us down, and sometimes it'll help us relax and lead to conversation, but it also explores your different senses. You know, wine will bring things out that you might not have expected in terms, again, of sound and sight and hearing and touch and feel and all those different things. And I don't know why I gravitated to that sort of a aspect of wine, but
I like it though.
it just makes sense to me.
So
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of tasting because I'm working on my WSET 3. I have a tasting group this evening, and I'm like, how can I taste like Chateau Neuf de Pop after drinking Pinot? It's just like a whole nother continent, you know? But I think you're right. Like, it's almost like when you do yoga and you get good enough with your balance that they say shut your eyes and, you know, do the tree. I'm going to start tasting with my eyes shut. Like, I've never done that because obviously I'm looking at the label, I'm writing down, but like you probably, it's just like, you know, you turn off different sensors and then other things like, you know, lean in more to your point.
It's a sensory experience. And again,
Yeah.
it's very much like listening to music, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you can sit there with headphones on and your eyes closed, and it's like, wow, I didn't know Fleetwood Mac added a tambourine in that song.
So that reminds me.
Where did that come from?
So
It's really cool.
have you been to Krug in Champagne?
No.
So they do exactly what you're talking about. They, with every champagne, they pair it with like a classical artist. And it's really cool. And like each vintage has a different pairing. And Maggie, the CEO, talks about it. So when I went to Krug and I'm like sitting in their beautiful tasting room and they're like, oh, you know, each vintage. And so, I mean, you're definitely onto something. And apparently some other wineries agree. So I think that's cool. I'm going to do a eyes shut, music on tasting in the near future.
There you go. And you mentioned other wineries do this sort of thing. But
Well, not in America that I know of. I'm just talking about in France.
Yeah, but one of the beautiful things, and you look worldwide, you know, that I see in the wine business, and you can translate this to food or art or theater or whatever, however you want to think about it, is that everybody has their own way of doing it. And they're going to bring their own thing into that, no matter what it is. And I love that aspect of it. I just think it's so cool. And yeah, and so we're just fortunate to be able to do that. And I'm in no hurry anymore. I'm in no hurry, you know?
Yeah, no. So, Kenny, this is for you. I'm just going to go back to the book, Michael, because those that have, well, Kenny, I'm sure you've already read it. Those that don't know who we're talking about, Kenny worked with Michael years ago at KV. So that's how I know Kenny and, you know, obviously a friend of Michael's. So
Wonderful
Kenny
guy.
asked me to read from the book. And I'm going to go to my favorite chapter. This was not planned, by the way, guys. So Michael has no idea what I'm doing. I actually loved the chapter, the business model. And I really, really appreciated when you started talking about customer service, because my second job in retail was at Nordstrom. And I think anyone that works in retail, like you did such a great job of describing that, like in wine, like you're not like selling wine, you're selling the experience and you're selling the hospitality, right? And I also loved, like, this is just one sentence. Anyone that has this book, it's on page 136. We didn't want to have a big egotistical, arrogant impression with our brand. That's not us. So I have to say, it goes back to like when I went to Cirque and I was like, all right, maybe I'll get a splash of wine with the winemaker. And you had the whole lineup. I think what's important is, you know, you guys are just like so down to earth. And even though you, I mean, what was the vintage? Was it '03 that got the 100-point Pinot or the 98-point Pinot that you talked about in the book? You got the
That was a
highest rated Pinot.
2009 Sonoma Coast.
Okay, yeah, sorry,
Not the highest rated,
2009. I'm 6 years off.
but
My point is for how great of a brand you have, for how well known, for how highly scored you are, you guys still remained humble and like stayed true to your values. And I think, I mean, I worked 15, 20 years of my life in retail, and I think that's hard to do. And, you know, we're sitting here today and you're just talking with this little blogger about your wines. And I think it just is true to your values and who you are. And I think that's awesome.
well, Emily, I truly believe that humility is a very strong trait for all of us. And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And some people may or may not. It's for me, I just try to keep that in check and go, yeah, all I'm trying to do here is make a delicious wine and get it to the consumer safely,
Yeah.
right? It's pretty as much simple as that. And it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, but you know, humility is a very strong and powerful word, and I take it seriously, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, yeah. So that Kenny, that was for, oh, good. Kenny gave a shout out. He appreciated that. So yeah, I mean, I had so many favorite parts of the book. I think it was awesome hearing how, you know, you worked as a bartender. You took, you know, when you first started Costa Browne, you had what, 3 or 4 day jobs as winemakers, and then Costa Browne was sort of like your other gig because obviously you weren't quite paying yourself when you first started the brand. And as someone that started a business, I mean, what do they say? Usually the first 3 or 4 years, you're not really making a profit.
Yep.
So yeah, I could relate to that. And I just think I also like appreciated the point where you talked about how one year, Mr. Kanzler, I know Alex, I don't know his dad's name, you know, had some grapes and offered you guys Steve.
Yeah.
And you were like, holy cow, this guy's giving us a break. He doesn't know us from Adam or Eve, and he's given us these great grapes. And then you made an amazing vintage out of it. So I just think like all these little details really piece together the story and sort of tell us as like the consumer, because I've been drinking Costa Browne for a long time and loving it, like where it all came from.
Yeah. I mean, and there's lots of sub stories that aren't written down, you know.
Yeah, where's the secret 2.0 version that's not off the record?
Give me some time. Give me some time.
We'll talk about that at World of Pinot 2022, because probably not gonna happen in 2021.
I think it's not, yeah. But
World of Pinot 2022, Pebble Beach Food and Wine 2022, and obviously Pinots and Plaid, my event, which you were at in 2019. Thank you for your support, the inaugural event. Cirque was at, and CHEV was going to be at for 2020. Holy cow, I can't wait for wine events to come back in the world again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't wait for a lot of stuff to come back. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really realize, I mean, pre-COVID, I would travel every other weekend of my life, usually for either wine events or media visits. And then it's like you have all this time on your hands not traveling and drinking wine and doing cool stuff like this.
It's a different sort of a deal, you know? But I like the formats. I like to be able to sit here and not have to dress up too much, you know, or whatever. I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
But it's a cool platform. And what I've found is that we can all connect around the world with different people. And which I didn't do in the past. I mean, every once in a while, but now it's just like right there.
Well,
Whatever.
and you and I were talking about this. It sounds like you've been interviewed a lot, podcasts, and, you know, like, so everybody wants to talk to you, Michael. How does that feel?
I'm very appreciative and grateful, but I'm kind of, I don't like a lot of limelight either, you know?
Okay.
I'll take it. I'll get it done. I'll do it. But yeah, it's kind of been rapid fire, which is cool, you know, and again, I'm very grateful for it. But somebody's cheering. Was that you?
Sorry, I pulled the Cirque bottle close and it hit the glass because I just realized, I was like,
sound.
we're going to have to serve some of these delicious Cirque. I mean, you and I could talk all night, but you might have to have dinner, so eventually you're going to cut me off. But
whatever. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure, was it Wine Spectator? I was just getting caught up on reading the other night, and I saw you and Sarah Wine Spectator or Wine Somm Journal? Somm Journal?
Depends on what you're talking about.
I don't know. There was a page with like you and Sarah and Browne Family Wines, and then next to it was Tony Lombardi and Lombardi Family Wines. It was very cute, and I was like, oh my god, I love it. They're together.
It could have been the Wine Spectrum. Yeah, yeah.
I think it was. I don't know. I ripped it out, and of course, it's in my bag, and I don't have it here to talk about. But it was very fitting 2 nights ago. I always somehow end up reading my wine magazines before bed. And then I'll like screenshot it, and usually I'll text the winemaker like, oh my god, you were in this. And they're like, half the time they're like, oh, I didn't know. I'm like, hello.
No, that what you're talking about with Tony in there too. That was really awesome.
That was awesome. That was like a double header. I loved it.
He's one of my favorite people, and he works with us here.
He's great. Well, that's how I know about you. Thank you, Tony, for the intro and all of your great PR work.
Yeah.
Well, shall we move on to CIRQ? I mean,
Sure.
I've been loving every moment of CHEV, but I feel like we gotta give these guys some love too.
Hit that 15.
Okay. Oh wait, we're skipping 13? Oh yeah, duh. Sorry. Okay. Oldest or newest to youngest? No.
Right. Yeah.
Newest to oldest.
However you want to put it. Yeah. So 15 bootleggers.
Okay. All right, guys. 15 bootleggers. We definitely had some comments. We've got some serious fans about well, both. They're like, oh my god, drank a CHEV, loved it. Oh my god, someone was at Pinot and Plaid and they said great event. Well, thank you. Thank you, Gerard. We're gonna have another. I should tell you this, Michael. I'm potentially having one in the summer of 2021 if the world and vaccines cooperates. But I was actually planning to have an event before we knew the vaccine was a thing. I was working towards putting an event together where we could be socially distanced and safe outside. So one of my amazing wineries happens to own like 14 vineyards and generously offered one of their vineyards for Pinot and Plaid. So cross our fingers, assuming we can get permitting and people feel comfortable coming, even if we're wearing masks and we're outside and, you know, each pot of 3 or 4 is 10 feet from somebody else. Pinot and Plaid might be happening.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. I haven't communicated this to my winery partners yet because it's still like in the works. But if there's a will, there's a way. And you know me, like getting an event, even if it's outside and even if it's like 70 people instead of 500, I still think it would be really awesome. And I think the people that love high-end fabulous wines like yours are willing to pay a premium to be in a safe setting with wineries they adore.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll see. So that might be coming in the pipeline. Okay, guys, this is the Bootleggers Hill 2015. Who has had this? Oh, perfect. Let's talk about the circus.
Oh, that's a different topic.
We are going there. Holy moly. Wait, you were in the circus from what, 9 to 15 or 12 to 18? It was a lot of time.
12 to 18, yeah.
Okay.
But get some of that wine in your glass first.
Okay. Well, I'll get there. You know, I don't have a problem drinking wine. Ooh, definitely smells a little older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost smells like a little bit of that, like, you know, forest floor, sort of like dirty soil, but dirty in a good way, like old world dirty.
Little clean mushroomy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But anyway, the circus, and I don't know how much time we have left here, but
we have as much time as you want.
Well, I grew up in a town in Washington State called Wenatchee. And in that town, there was a youth circus called Wenatchee Youth Circus.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a little kid, we'd go there and I was just thrilled with it. There you go. And I tried sports in junior high, you know, baseball, soccer, football. It just didn't make sense to me. And when I was 12, one of my buddies, he was on the flying trapeze and I was in 7th grade and he goes, join the circus, dude. You'll love it. There's 80 kids and parents go, and it was very a wholesome thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The leader of it was this guy named Paul Pugh, and he was the principal of our junior high school, and he kept everybody accountable. And then you go and practice in the spring and the winter. Spring was outside, winter was in the school gymnasium. And I go, there's no way I could do this. I have no idea how to ride a unicycle or anything. And I said, well, I like the unicycle act, so I'm going to practice. My parents got me a unicycle for Christmas, and I rode it all over town.
Yeah.
Practicing. And I got on the team. It was cool.
Very cool.
There'd be like 5 people, then 4 people, then 3 people, and 2 people, and one person on this pyramid of unicycles,
Where were
and
you in the pyramid?
on the bottom. I was always
Okay, that
kind
would
of,
totally give me, I get claustrophobic, but keep going.
yeah. So I was never a good acrobat, but I could hold some weight. Anyway, the next year I go, I like the fire eating act. I'm going to try that. So I talked with the fire eaters, and they go, here's how you do it, man. And I made my own wands. You have fire wands out of coat hangers and sheets and cotton thread and stuff like that. And so I got on that act, and then I looked at the high wire, and I said, there's no way I'm going to get on that one. And they said, Michael, do you want to be in the high wire? I said, yes, please. Scared the heck out of me. But I got on that act, and we had a couple mishaps, but that's okay.
Well, you talk
And
about
then,
the high wire, and I'm going to interrupt you. You talk about the high wire in the book, and I loved when you're like, I practiced a lot on the low wire, and then an hour before the show, all of a sudden, and then you're like, I needed a little refresher.
that was a tough day, but we got it done.
Well, I've done the trapeze, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. When I was a kid,
Wow.
my family used to go to Club Med, and they have a trapeze there.
Yeah.
And I'm like the biggest wimp. I don't even like roller coasters. Like, I would never skydive. So the trapeze was sort of a big deal for me. And when I was like 10 or 12, I did it. And then every year as we got older, I was like, no, I'm good. Yeah. And my younger sister was like the whiz at it. So hearing all the things you did in the circus, I was like, Michael needs to go to Club Med, and he would be like the champ.
Not these days. Not these days.
Well, you don't,
But
once you could do it, you don't, I mean, I don't know if you're like me, I get more scared as I get old, but I feel like you could swing the trapeze and love it, right?
I can eat fire like nobody's business, but
Okay.
I'm not gonna get back on the trapeze.
Oh, really? You'd rather eat fire?
Yeah. But anyway, the
What
trapeze,
about the high wire?
mm, that's a little more simple, but it's a psychological game.
Okay.
But the trapeze, they said, hey, Michael, do you want to be the catcher on the trapeze? And I said, yes. And it scared the death out of me because you got
Well,
to
all you're
hang
doing is
upside
hanging
down.
upside down and catching someone. It's less scary than flying, isn't it?
It depends. I got knocked out twice on that thing, you
Oh, you
know?
got hit by somebody swinging?
Yeah, this gal knocked me in the head a couple times because it was some certain trick and her knee is like, boom.
Ooh.
And it's all timing and it's all these different things. Because you call flyers and the flyers come out and you got to call them,
Right. Oh,
clap
yeah,
your
I
hands
remember.
and,
It's
and
very
you say, ho.
choreographed.
And it is. And then they come flying over and you catch them and you push them back. Very physically fatiguing. Back when I was in my day, I'll send you a photograph of me in my trapeze suit,
Okay.
okay?
Well, can I share it to my Instagram story so everybody can see it, or is it just for my
Whatever you
head?
want to do. Whatever you
Okay.
want to do.
Well,
But
I mean,
anyway,
God, you eating fire and on like a unicycle, those are all things that would be really cool to see.
it's
Are there
different.
pictures
Yeah.
in the book? Because since I listened to it, I didn't
No,
really, no pictures.
no pictures. Yeah.
Hmm.
But
Maybe in the 2.0 version, you'll have some behind the scenes photos of you eating fire.
maybe. And then it turns out my great grandfather was a professional circus clown in the 40s.
Oh,
I've got a stack of photos. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
that's cool.
I'm like, what the heck? But anyway, to make a point, I learned a lot in my circus days about
Mhm.
practice, hard work, dedication, failure, risk. And when I decided to make wine, I didn't know anything about it, nothing. And I said, I'm just going to give this 10 years hard time. And I'm going to apply what I learned there and how to practice into making wine. And I said, if it doesn't work, I can always shake a cocktail at a restaurant and feed my family,
Yeah.
backup plan. You always got to have a backup plan.
So I did write
And
a sentence down as I was taking notes, listening to the book. You said respecting the audience. It's not about you. People are paying to see you perform.
mhm.
So can you speak more about that? Because I think it's very relevant to both your circus days, working in a restaurant, and then what you did with all of your brands in terms of hospitality.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point. From my point of view, it's we just do what we can. Like I said earlier, I just hope people enjoy the wines and they enjoy the hospitality. And And it's not all about us. When a consumer gets a bottle of wine, this phone, when the computer gets a bottle of wine, or a computer, jeez,
Consumer computer. Well, they get it through the
consumer,
computer, so I was following.
yeah. But it's not up to us to sit there with them and explain it to them because they might be in New York City or somewhere, or Austin, Texas, or wherever they're from.
Or Norway, like our viewer
Or Norway,
tonight, which I'm
yeah,
so flattered.
exactly.
I'm Norwegian, by the way, Michael. There's a lot of history, but that's a whole nother
That's
Zoom
cool.
or
That's
Instagram live.
cool.
Yes, keep going, please.
But it's just, you know, we take what we do. This is an old saying, and lots of people say this, but it's very true for me, is we don't take ourselves very seriously, but what we do take seriously is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it encompasses growing grapes, making wine, having good hospitality, good marketing, get it to the consumer, and ship it off like a bouquet of flowers. So when it arrives, it's cool to the touch and it's nice.
Yep.
And those are all kind of hard things to put together. It's not impossible. It's just, it takes time.
Yeah. And it takes
And
details.
and our responsibility, the way I see it, is that people, you know, they're not cheap wines by any means. And so we take it very seriously that when somebody gets one, we hope they enjoy it. And it brings them closer to their friends and family, perhaps. Or they just sit down alone and meditate.
Or if it's me during COVID, it brings me closer to the bottle of wine, living by myself, enjoying it with my dog.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great thing. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's how I think about that aspect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could talk about the hospitality points you mentioned in the book for a while, because to me, hospitality is so, so, so critical. And I'll never forget the first time I visited Costa Browne. Actually, I'm pretty sure you had already sold it at this point, but still, you know, a lot of the stuff you and Dan put in place, I'm sure were still being executed. And Damon hosted me for like 2.5, 3 hours, and we did a barrel tasting, and you talk about the barrel tasting in your book. And it for sure blew my mind away, and it exceeded my expectations, my wildest dreams. And then we're like sitting in that like kitchen hospitality area, and Damon pops by, and he's like, oh, I'm in my hat, and I'm like, I'm just going to do some winemaking stuff, you know? And I'm like, the winemaker's here. And then I met, Damon, Nico passed through. Sorry, the wine's getting to me. And it was cool. And obviously, like, whatever they were doing when I visited, you know, that was you and your team that sort of set in place. And even if you'd still sold it, this was like before I met you at Cirque. So that was my first foray into Michael Browne and Costa Browne, and it's really cool, and it's exciting, and you should be proud of what you've done there and how you've parlayed it into Browne family wines.
Well, I appreciate that, and it is certainly an evolution, right? And yeah, we're just moving forward the best we can. That's simple as that.
Yeah,
simple as that.
So speaking of moving forward, maybe I should taste the 13 and just give some thoughts in case people, I mean, we can go as long as we want. I'm sure you probably have dinner plans, so I don't want to keep you all night. But I want to make sure people get to hear thoughts on the 15. Well, I didn't really share any tasting notes. So guys, the 15, well, I don't think we can really compare Cirque to CHEV. As we talked about, the CHEV 18 is, you know, a little bit newer, fresher. You're saying it needs a little time. I don't think it needs any time. I love it as is. Like, I could drink that whole bottle tonight and be perfectly fine. The 15, you know, it's a little more complex because it's older and it has those mushroom forest floor flavors we were talking about. How would you describe the profile of the Bootlegger's vineyard versus Treehouse? Because the 13, which I'm about to taste, is Treehouse, and the 15 was Bootlegger's.
Yeah, so Treehouse is a very intense vineyard and very low in pH, which relates to acidity, not directly, but it has a very deep vibrancy. And the way I describe Treehouse is it's got these crunchy red fruits.
Okay.
And crunchy, I mean, when you bite into a pomegranate seed or a cranberry or a piece of rhubarb, that's a crunchy fruit. And you name the crunchy fruit. The Bootleggers, to me, has more soft fruit.
I mean, you're right. They smell very different.
Yeah, but to me, the Bootleggers has more soft fruits like a cherry or a raspberry or a strawberry,
okay,
with those spicy, foresty nuances to it.
Okay.
You know?
And then you're saying Treehouse is more like pomegranate. I'm actually tasting notes on my notes from the book because I'm that big of a geek, but I want to hear what the winemaker thinks. Okay,
But
so
the 13 I really enjoy, and it definitely has a couple more years on it.
yeah, it's
But
a little nutty.
I love the mouthfeel. I love the textures. But it's in a very good window right now, in my opinion. And it's just I like how it folds down. You know, I
Way
like how it.
earthier,
Pardon me?
much earthier than the bootleggers.
Yeah, the killer vineyard.
Oh my
Killer
God,
vineyard.
amazing. So I confuse the two. So the one that's on the Chenoweth Home Ranch, is that Treehouse or Bootleggers?
Treehouse.
Okay, so that's the Chenoweth. So I went on an awesome ATV ride there.
Yeah, it's
Amazing.
cool,
Like,
huh?
holy cow. Amy's like, okay, so you might see like probably one of the most picturesque views of a California winery. And I got to the top and I'm like, you were not kidding.
It's beautiful up there, and all the redwoods and the firs up there, and it's a
Yeah.
forest. It's in the
Yeah.
middle
And
of a
then where's
forest.
Bootlegger located?
That's at the top of Occidental Road, just kind of northeast or northwest of Sebastopol. And that's about 650-foot elevation, where Treehouse is about 750 foot, but
Okay.
much different soil types. Treehouse gets its influence from Mother Nature directly from the coast. I mean, it just comes right in.
Yeah.
And it's not a cold vineyard, but it does get windy up there. And so we get these thicker skins and makes more intense wines. Bootleggers gets its influence from Freestone, which kind of comes up through Bodega Bay, wraps
Yeah.
up through Freestone and over that ridge. And the soil, again, is much different, where Treehouse has this really red dirt. And
Oh, I
actually,
know. My boots were covered in the red dirt. You're right. I will
yeah,
never forget that red dirt. It's
that,
like red
that's
clay.
Treehouse right there.
Yep.
And Bootleggers is more Goldridge, classic Goldridge. It's that powdery loam, you
Okay.
know?
And then the
And
Chenoweths farm both of them.
yes. Hmm.
That's awesome. I love it. I mean, I feel like I've been seeing their vineyards on your bottles for years now. And then when I met Amy and Charlie and I got to visit their vineyard, it like connected the dots. And I was like, this is so cool. And I think, you know, obviously winemakers and writers, like we get the opportunity to go to vineyards and a lot of consumers maybe don't. But I think it's, you know, it's almost like the lights go on. It's like you've like heard about the soil and you've heard about the terroir and you've heard what the winemaker's saying, like literally how you're describing the two differences in the vineyards. And then you can taste it, but it's not till you see it that you're like, oh, I'm connecting the dots.
Hmm.
At least that's how I feel. Like once I see a vineyard and I've tasted the wine, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like speaking of Sonoma Coast, I was just at Platt Vineyards, which is probably up there too. And that's like another stunning, incredible vineyard producing some great fruit. I mean, I'm a vineyard geek.
Yeah. And the two vineyards that we're talking about, you got to know where you're going. You're just not going to drive by it and see it.
Right.
And hopefully there's not somebody with a shotgun.
Well, I'm not a
They're
vineyard
not. There's
crasher.
neither.
I only go to vineyards when I have an invitation.
No, I hear you. That was more of a
But that's
joke.
actually a good idea. I should start crashing vineyards. Not. So, and then what about CHEV? Like, where are you sourcing the fruit from for CHEV in the Russian River?
We have Copeland Vineyard. It used to be a Costa Brown vineyard. We have a vineyard called Ritchie, Kent Ritchie.
Oh my God!
Chardonnay.
Is the Chardonnay from Ritchie?
No, the one you're having is from Bootleggers, but we're getting Ritchie fruit.
Oh my
God.
God!
I just got a really nice note from Kent Ritchie, and he does it on the legal pad.
Oh my God! I love the Ritchie Chardonnay. I've had a lot. Gary Farrell makes a beautiful Ritchie Chardonnay, and it's stunning. I cannot wait to try the CHEV one. So will that be a 2020?
It'll be part of the blend of 20 or 19, and then we'll see how 20 goes because we got a little smoke action.
Yeah.
And then we've got a vineyard called Winter Circle, which is off Laguna Road, and this guy Michael Verlander and his partner own it. He used to be a partner in Dumal Winery.
Oh yeah.
And a good friend. Yeah, a good friend. And we get some fruit from Oregon from these two vineyards that are about, I don't know, 12 miles west of Salem.
Okay.
That wine's turning out pretty cool. Different. It's a different animal.
Which AVA is Salem in?
This is in the Willamette Valley,
Oh, okay.
southern
Yeah.
southern Willamette Valley.
Yeah. I was just there in June. So is it like Alameda Hills, Dundee Hills? Where in the Willamette?
It's south of all those,
Okay.
so the southern end.
Got it.
In the hills, whole
Oh.
different agricultural landscape. They got tree farms,
Yeah, there's a
CBD,
lot of fruit
marijuana
there.
farms. There's some different stuff going on up there, but really cool. And
Yeah.
then we're getting back into Santa Lucia Highlands with the Garys,
Oh,
Pizzoni and Francione.
love the Garys. I went on a Somm trip and I learned to drop fruit. I think I told you this at Gary's Vineyard, like Gary and Gary. They're so great.
They're like family. They're wonderful, wonderful people. And so I can't wait for that. And then, a few more vineyards. Castaldi Vineyard is one of them that I made with Costa Browne for a number of years. And now we take that vineyard. It's just near Copeland over on Olivet Road.
Oh.
Really, really cool bass Tony stuff. And I'd have to look at my notes to see anything else, but we've got about 13 vineyards, including our estate vineyard, which is 10 acres.
Oh.
And
Oh, wait, I've been
even,
to it. You're beautiful. Oh, tell
yeah,
us about
yeah.
the winery.
Yeah, the winery, it's a funny story. When I bought back Cirque, I had no capital because it was all tied up in Costa Browne.
Mm-hmm.
I had no vineyards. It was all tied up. I had no staff. I legally couldn't hire staff. And I had no facility.
Because you had a non-compete?
Yeah. And it was fine. I signed the thing. It was cool. That's kind of how things roll.
Yeah.
But I talked with the guy and I said, hey, I don't have any of this stuff. But when I free up, do you want to come work for me? And he used to run Paul Hobbs Winery, and he ran our cork and glass company with my good friend Neil Foster. M.A. Silva is the company. And he said, yeah, I'm going to go on a motorcycle trip. Let me know. And he's been with me for almost 3 years now.
Wait, who is that?
His name's Michael Reel.
Oh, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were hanging out, you, me, and Michael at Region. And Sarah.
Exactly.
I love Michael. So. I met Michael when I first visited you. He had the dog, and he was sitting there, and then you and I did that ridiculous tasting where we did every vintage together.
Yeah. So now, fast forward, I've got a staff full-time of seven and a half.
Wow.
And we have a winery that's fully functioning. We're remodeling this big house up here for guests. And when it's done, we got a room for you.
Pool. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Sarah was telling me about it. She was telling me about, like, the hospitality, and it's going to look like a little bit like Restoration Hardware, but like a home. Like, we'll just be, like, hosting in your home.
Yeah, but more craftsman style and more custom stuff. You know what I mean? And nice robes and slippers and things like that. And,
oh my God. When I write about a luxury hotel, literally, if they don't have nice robes and slippers, I'm like, where am I? The Best Western? So wineries do not normally have that. So you were just like exceeding expectations already, telling me that you have robes and slippers for guests.
Well, we don't have them yet, but we're doing research. We're doing research. But it's a fun project. It's multi-detailed, and we're right in the middle of it right now, and lots of moving parts, but it's ours. And when
do you plan to open that for those viewers that are curious when they can visit?
Well, we're not going to be open to the public. It's by appointment only.
Okay.
And we're thinking June-ish.
Oh, that's my birthday month. Birthday.
There you go. And if anybody wants to come up, they email us, on either website. And we have 3 actually. We got CIRQ.com, CHEVwines.com, and BrowneFamilyWines.com.
I know you really have a lot. That's why when you were joining, I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to ask him which handle he's joining from, Michael, CIRQ, or CHEV.
Yeah, I don't know. I make things too complex. But
no, I have the same. I have 2 websites, 4 Instagram handles if you count my dogs now. So I'm the exact same. It's nice to have a little bit of separation of church and state between brands, but then like they all come together.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing. And when we have guests up, what we typically do is it'll be very private, and we'll hang out in the living room and taste some wines and maybe pull out a new banjo or something. And
oh, do you play the banjo?
I'm learning.
Oh, well, speaking of learning, don't make fun of me. You're going to think I'm 80. I'm learning bridge.
Oh, good game. Yeah, good
I
game.
mean, I think this is one of the takeaways of COVID. I think we could all write a book on what we've learned during COVID. Well, especially during COVID, who doesn't want to know bridge? Like my mom plays bridge weekly and she's in a group that like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are in. And like it's just like, apparently it keeps you smart and it keeps you sharp.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like
So
chess. Yeah.
yeah, and oh my God, The Queen's Gambit. Have you seen that show?
No, I've heard about it.
If you like chess, you got to start that. But yeah. So I think yeah. So I'm going on 80 learning bridge, but whatever. Why not?
It's cool. Whatever gets you going, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're blessed to have the property that we have and great views. You've been up
It's
here.
beautiful. I was just there Tuesday and it was blue skies, like stunning.
Yeah. It
Now,
was
are you
really
keeping that
funny.
pool or are you removing the pool?
No, we're keeping it, but we're redoing the entire inside, you
Pool
know.
party.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
That Chardonnay, June, that is asking for a pool party.
However you want to play it. Yeah. But it was funny. I got a quick story because we have a lot of nature around us, you know,
Yeah.
coyotes and birds and different things. And the other day we're out in the back of the winery having a little kind of post-meeting meeting, and a
Yeah.
parade of turkeys just walks by us. It was a freaking parade of like
How
30
many?
turkeys, like 30. And
Wow.
they
Can
kept
you can
coming.
you
They
hunt
kept
them? Are you
coming.
a hunter?
I am, but I'm not going to kill these guys,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's pretty
But
cool.
they just, it was a parade, and I'm like, right on. And in the very back were the two big toms, you know,
Yeah.
making sure all the gals were safe and everything, you
That's
know.
so, it's like the March of
So
the Penguins.
it was very much like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know what else to say, but except for thank you,
Well,
and
no,
thanks
no, no,
thanks
thank
everybody
you.
for being here.
I know we got so many exciting comments. The only annoying thing about Instagram is when this ends, we lose the comments. So let me just like read a couple more just so you can hear them because they're really all about you and your beautiful wines. So the Laman said 13 Treehouse is what we are drinking. Dark berries and loamy, powerful. Good descriptors, guys. Kelly Plam said great job. Love seeing you, Michael. Mark Dawson.
That was Kelly Lamb.
Kelly Plam.
Oh, Plam, gotcha. Okay.
Um, Mamama Lumbo 4321, you are a genius in the wine world. Love your vino. Kenny keeps giving us smiley faces. Love you, Kenny. Oh, and pack your Speedo, Michael.
Right on.
I know. I'm like, come on, you gotta. People love your story. So, I mean, oh, tightrope. Oh, 15 is awesome, and yes to the 16. Britt told us that the 15 bootleggers is her favorite. I know. The 50, yeah. I think like I was just looking at my notes because I of course was taking notes as we were tasting together. And I think I might be a bootleggers girl. Like I always have to pick one. That's just my style. I mean, I love them all. But like at the end,
Mm-hmm.
when you taste like, well, back in the olden days, if I would taste, I don't know, 30 or 40 wines a month, you have to have like some like this is my profile, this is what I would drink a bottle of, and this is what I would love to have a glass of.
For sure, yeah.
I could drink a bottle or maybe a case of the bootleggers and like 1 to 5 bottles of the Treehouse.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the cool thing about wine is that there's flavors for everybody, and
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be just one thing, you know?
yeah. And I mean, takeaway from me, because I don't think I had ever had your Chardonnay before tonight. The CHEV Chardonnay is like outstanding and so unexpected and so drinkable and so light and just refreshing and just like the opposite of those like big California Chardonnays you want nothing to do with. So those of you that have not had the CHEV Chardonnay, we know Michael makes a beautiful Pinot. This is not a surprise. We know that, right? You've been making wine for how many years, Michael?
Since 97, so you do the math on that one.
23.
Sounds about appropriate, yeah.
And how many years have you been making a Chardonnay?
We started with Costa Browne in the 11 vintage,
Okay.
and that was all bootleggers.
I never had a
And
Costa Browne Chardonnay, so shame on me. I didn't even know that there was one. Well,
yeah,
I'm
but
lying. Maybe I had it when I visited the winery. But to me, when I
there's
thought
not a
of
lot
Costa
of it.
Browne, it was always Pinot.
Yeah, but I would suggest any of their wines. I mean, they're still making really cool wines. So any of them. And yeah, but Chardonnay is much different to make than Pinot Noir. It's much more fickle. It's easier to grow, in my opinion, but harder to ferment.
Really?
It'll,
Because I always hear that Pinot's the bitchy grape.
it depends on how you dance with her,
Of course, the music. Back to the music.
you know.
Um,
And but no, with Chardonnay, it's like we're constantly. Some vintages just work, but a lot of them, man, we gotta work on them
yeah.
because they tend to stick with primary or malolactic or whichever kind of fermentation.
Hmm.
And Pinot, we can ferment it out really well, but it's harder in the vineyard. So
Now, does
nothing's
this go
easy.
through malolactic fermentation?
It does, yeah.
But it's
Hmm.
very subtle, like it's not in your face.
Yeah, there's different techniques, different
Hmm.
techniques. And
Well,
if I told you those, I'd have to kill you.
no, don't tell
No, I'm
me.
kidding.
Although,
It's basic knowledge, basic knowledge.
yeah. Well, Michael, this has been extraordinary. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the delicious wines. And we have gotten so much positive feedback. Like, thank you all for joining and listening in. And yeah, reminder, get this book, get the paper, get the Audible. Got if you get a paper, visit the somehow get to the winery and ask Michael to sign it because that's probably the coolest thing. I'm one of these sentimental people that when winemakers sign my bottles, I like never drink them when they go in my cellar. And speaking of sentimental, your team gave me this.
Yeah, there you go.
So I've been walking around town wearing my CIRQ mask, and I feel
Awesome.
like a part of the team. So thank you. And yeah, thank you for your time, your insight, your beautiful wines. This was a dream.
Well, thank you, Emily. And again, I just wanted to thank everybody else for joining in. Very humbling, and it's fun to talk about kind of what we do here in our little neck of the woods.
Oh, it's so fun to talk about it. I mean, I could talk all night, but say good night and we'll say hello and then good night to Sarah. We love her.
Hmm.
And yeah, hopefully, I guess I'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks at bottling day.
We'll put you to work, sister.
Okay, put me to work because I've been to like Harvest and they like welcome me with a rosé at 9 a.m. and I'm like, I'm pretty sure everyone's been like sorting grapes since 5. Like, give me the hard work.
Yeah, yeah. We'll show you what's going on.
Okay, well, thanks again, Michael. And in case any of you guys missed the first half, don't worry. This will be on my IGTV channel, and I will be saving it on YouTube. And Michael, you guys will get a copy, so you can put it wherever you guys want as well. And everybody can listen to me and Michael as much as they want on as many other publications.
All right.
Oh,
Cheers.
actually, do you mind? Can we just smile for the camera? Because I got to get a good little shot for the Instagram cover.
Yeah, I'm in bad light, but yeah,
Oh,
let's
you're
get
in
that
great
done.
light. Hold on. My arm's gonna get cut off. Okay, so smile. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh. This is really hard. It's really hard to screenshot in a tripod. Shoot, it's not working. Uh, okay, one more, Michael. Uh, okay, perfect.
Got it?
Thank you very
All right.
much. Good evening. My friends well, I have like a pod of 3 people. So my pod of 3 that are going to get to drink these leftover wines in a day or two. Thank you very much. And have a safe and lovely evening.
You too. Thank you so much, Emily.
Good
All
night,
right.
Michael.
Bye.